Hello and welcome to the 2020 Amstel Gold Race here on, well, it's not a real life one, but it's as near as we're going to get in these troubled times. And the first attacks are off with Emil Vignebo of Rural Readiness going on the attack. Definitely a possible outsider for the future. He's a good punching classics rider. Whilst these attacks are going on, alongside me I've got Johnny Long.
Good afternoon, Tim. What a glorious day it is in the Netherlands. It'll take a while to settle down. You see Lucas Postelberger just trying to close the gap there. Got Louis Mineheads up ahead. What a win that would be if he manages to, get to the end. But as we saw last year with Mathieu van der Poel, brakes have to be very talented to get away in this race, especially if he's there.
Definitely. Of course, Van der Poel unfortunately isn't here for Alpecin Fenix, but his team is. But last year's second place Simon Clark is in the race. That was a surprise last year. What do you think about his chances this year, Johnny?
Well, firstly, I apologise for the Mathieu van der Poel. I don't know how that news passed me by. But that opens it up to many riders for who could possibly win, including Simon Clark. It'd be great to see a win for him.
And we've got our break set up, and it's looking like a 9-man group of Emil Vignebo, Nico Denz, Alex Kirsch, Caleb Ewan of all people, Natnael Bahani, Danny Navarro, Louis Meintjes, Tom De Vriend and Kevin Ledenois. Definitely a very varied breakaway group for us today, Johnny. What about Caleb Ewan getting up there?
Yeah, you're surprised to see him up there. I can't believe the other fast men's teams let him get away. But if they manage to make this move stick, then they're not going to want to tow Caleb Ewan all the way to the line. So we'd expect to see the group splinter towards the end. But what a win that would be for the Australian.
And we're coming up to the first passage of the Coburg now. Of course, we're not finishing at the top of this like the old editions, but it's still an integral part of the race. And we're about to drop down before taking the turn onto the famous climb.
They all seem to be working well together at the moment. Caleb Ewan should be... None of the parkour should trouble him today. But it will be interesting to see how long they continue to work together as a group.
You can see they do stall a bit when they got to the bottom of that climb, but they can do, I suppose. They've got just over 7 minutes now as the crowd are going into the road, for some reason showing the riders their flags that they're proudly waving. We see the peloton now also. They'll be there in 7 minutes and 16 seconds time as the breakaway have just crossed the finish line for the first time.
Got the young American Brandon McNulty on the front, doing a lot of work for his team. Tim de Klerk's back there as well for Quick Step. They're never too far away from the action.
Yeah, no surprise to see Tim de Klerk up there at all. Absolute tractor, I believe they call him. Him, Luis Leon Sanchez and the others all working very hard for their teammates. On to the Coburg for the second time now. The peloton are closing the gap dramatically since we last looked at them going up this climb. It's down to 3 minutes and 5 seconds. There's still some riders being dropped out the back of the peloton. You can see there's a group of 3 riders nearly 17 minutes down. It's going to be a long day for them, Johnny.
Yeah, when there's been a lot of crashes that we've seen today, Zdenek Stybar, half of Alpecin Fenix, George Bennett, many riders coming a cropper. But yeah, as we see the gap going down, it's tough, 8.9% average gradient, still a long way to go, Tim.
Inside the last 60 kilometres now, and the breakaway advantage is now being eaten into Antonio Pedrero of Team Movistar leading the way for his team leader Alejandro Valverde. Barry McLaren also doing quite a bit of work along with Astana. As we can see the parkour to the finish there, lots of ups and downs, lots of stressful roads, possibility for more crashes yet to come.
You'd expect the initial breakaway to be reeled in, so it'll be interesting to see who's the next group to go. You've got Schachmann, Alaphilippe, Fulsang, a lot of riders up the front there. Dan Martin, probably not a favourite for today, but Alejandro Valverde as well.
You can see there's some selections that have been a bit different today. You see Tom Dumoulin, you wouldn't necessarily think he'd ride this race. And then you look at someone who could possibly even be an outsider in Ivan Garcia Cortina. Obviously, he took that uphill sprint in Paris-Nice, so a possibility for Barry McLaren in that area, maybe.
I think after last year, where Van der Poel brought back the gap and won the race, I mean, that was one of the highlights of the 2019 calendar, that really anything can happen in the Amstel Gold Race.
We come through this little town now. The breakaway have 1 minute 28 seconds as we go into the Keutenberg climb. And 600 metres at an average of 15% as we see Emil Vignebo go on the attack to try and stay out in front.
The riders had almost come to a standstill due to the steep gradient, but then Vignebo, just that impetus, has set the race alight once again.
As we see Astana take full control behind, maybe working for Alexei Lutsenko, the Kazakh Cup champion. The race really starting to stretch out now as Vignebo looks like he's going to be brought back. He has been indeed. The peloton, though, is splitting up nicely. 35 riders going up the road, with riders dotted in no man's land all over the place. Nairo Quintana, Mikhail Kwiatkowski, Lilian Kalmajan, Teo Gegenhardt, Richard Carapaz, all losing touch.
The race is on now, Tim. It's all going to go bananas.
Interested to see Wout van Aert has lost touch there. Possibly the one Ardennes Classic that he could have a really good go at. Maybe just bad positioning going into the Keutenberg.
Yeah, Michael Matthews also caught out. There's still kilometres to go though, so hopefully they'll get back on. He's having to do his own work though to get back onto the what's left of the peloton, I guess.
Remco Evenepoel pushing on there for Julian Alaphilippe, Brandon McNulty, Alexei Lutsenko doing a lot of work for himself here, maybe doing it for Jakob Fuglsang as the breakaway hit the Coburg for the final time here at the 2020 Amstel Gold Race. Alexei Lutsenko drilling the pace behind to try and pull this back and set up his teammate.
They're really close now. The catch will be made sooner rather than later.
Lutsenko's looking too powerful for his own good there. I believe he put a bit of a gap in as Emil Vignebo is the first man to be brought back into the clutches of the peloton.
Rafael Micah there for Schachmann as well. Still up for anyone, Tim. Who do you fancy for the win?
Well, it's always a difficult one to call, this one. You look through the riders that are there and you'd think, oh, well, I wasn't going to say Max Schachmann, I was going to say Julian Alaphilippe, but Max Schachmann has just gone solo to try and take this all the way to the line with just inside 11k to go. He bridges across to the breakaway. It's left to Philippe Gilbert of Lotto Soudal to try and bring it back.
Well, Paul's also there. Bahrain have been working hard for him all day. Alaphilippe, Fuglsang, they battled it out in the Ardennes Classics last year. But Schachmann's having a really good go at this.
Yeah, Schachmann's looking incredibly strong here. The German champion, of course, winner of Paris-Nice. In real life, of course, it's a bit different as Alberto Bettiol almost brought that back. But Max Schachmann kicks again. He's looking incredibly strong as we hit the Bemlerberg.
Philippe Gilbert's up there once again. You'd almost be worried if he wasn't at the front end of the race when it's crunch time.
Oh, Julian Alaphilippe finally showing his face as he hits the front and goes on the attack, dragging Fuglsang, Wellens, Wout Poels and a couple of other riders. Did you see who that was, Johnny?
I didn't, Tim. I would apologise for putting my glasses on. But all we know is that Wout Poels is doing his best to bring back Schachmann here. This could prove to be a crucial selection.
I believe that the EF Pro Cycling rider is Simon Clark. So that could, second place in last year's race. Maybe he could go one better. He's got a good sprint on him.
We'll have to see.
Into the final kilometre now as we go into the final turn. The sprint's open up by Wout Poels. We see Simon Clark go through it. Simon Clark wins the 2020 Amstel Gold Race comfortably for Education First. Wow, he does go one better than last year. That was quite something.
What a fantastic victory, beating out Wout Poels, who takes a surprising second place, then Julian Alaphilippe in third. Max Schachmann, after that huge effort, only comes fourth. Tim Wellens rounds out the top five, with Jakob Fuglsang sixth.
It's a real mishmash of riders. If you look down the list there for the top 20, there's Kort Nielsen, there's Valverde, Tom Scoggins, Caleb Ewan, even from the breakaway, still manages 13th place ahead of Philippe Gilbert. Brandon McNulty, after all that work today, is, I believe, the highest UAE rider. So whoever he was working for didn't work out at all.
Fantastic ride from McNulty after all the work he did on the front of the peloton. And Caleb Ewan still leaving something for the sprint there, even though he didn't make that final group of riders to contest a victory. But yeah, a lot of great performances, but mostly EF Pro Cycling. Another fantastic win in Spring Classics for them.
Superb race once again. It's definitely, I think it's quite an underrated race, Johnny, Amstel Gold Race.
100%. I mean, you just have to look at last year, but even this year, Simon Clark taking a great victory there, just opening up his sprint, coming past Wout Poels. Julian Alaphilippe has to come from quite far back, to be honest. Maybe if he'd been better positioned, he would have had a better chance. But, well done, Simon Clark. Deservedly steps up to the podium to claim the victory.